Hello there, live meditation hour session. I am super excited and super awake. Honestly, I didn't sleep last night at all. And instead of sleeping in the daytime, I chose to kind of, push it through. And I took a nap for maybe a couple hours. So in the last 48 hours, I hardly slept for 10 hours. But yet, after 2 hours of nap, I feel refreshed, and hopefully, I don't doze off. Especially, it would be very bad if I doze off and just hurt myself on any of those edges. Uh, but other than that, things are going well in here. It rained for a while, so that's always a refreshing break, I guess, and especially now since we are still officially in pandemic and it doesn't look like things gonna get better for next few weeks at least. So embrace the impact. It will be a wild ride for a while. And yeah, uh, I would say it's still a good opportunity to prepare for what's coming in next few months or throughout this year for that matter, especially in United States because we have an election this year and it gonna be a rocky ride. I can totally see how all the movements, all the crises such as pandemic as well as the Black Lives Matter movement and combined with economic recession or at least slowdown, all of these gonna be a main election talking points. And I I am split about everything going on, and obviously, between the two candidates at this moment, Trump is the worst for sure, but Joe Biden isn't that far behind either. So, to be honest, all the people are gonna lose this year and the next 3 4 years. It's more about the degree of lost. The next if Trump wins, the next 4 years gonna be chaos, and plenty of times chaos is good for opportunistic. In a sense, like I mean, on both sides, like people who are opportunistic and are grifters and just switch the wave. And on the other side, when there is a lot of chaos, people or leaders actually emerge out of chaos. They take a stand. They do what's needed to be done, and the other people automatically gravitate towards that leader. So leaders emerge out of chaos. So I believe if Trump wins next cycle of election, there might still be something good coming out of it. However, he is so, I would say, loose cannon that it would be really weird to control him, or nobody would be able to control him for sure. So that's one of the things which the people on the right likes about him, that nobody can control him. But that's the whole point. Like nobody can literally talk him out of his own illogical or inhumane actions. So it's not a good thing when you have a person in power who doesn't listen to anybody else at all. Because if if I consider or if I picture myself at a place where I have responsibility of thousands of people, let alone millions of people, right? Then the first thing I'm going to do is be humble enough to understand all the crises, all the issues by bringing in experts and see diverse experts' opinion. And then proactively take action based on that, based on my judgment, based on my intuition, and based on the data I have in hand. But when you have somebody who proclaim themselves as the smartest person in the room, who proclaim themselves that they have the best judgmental mindset and whatnot, then it's very hard to give them the facts and data and the reality. And to be honest, like a lot of people don't care. Right now, what matters to a lot of people is economy. It's all the money. Even if the social and the civilian society is eroded beneath that, that's acceptable. In that sense, that's the same pattern in most of the places in the world. Like China, if you look at that, they are thriving with their economy right now, but under the veil of that economy, the people there don't have any rights. Likewise, even in India, there are a lot of issues with related to the civic society, and I'm seeing the similar trend in the United States as well. And to be fair, it's not that it just started after Trump's presidency. There has been a lot of systematic rigging against the common person in all countries, for that matter. And I guess that's how the game is played. I guess. But what I feel is that most of the companies and institutes got their intention wrong. For an example, the intention of companies are to make profit. And in order to make profit, we have seen that a lot of companies cross the line and stop caring about people who are employed within the company and treat them like crap. And then people tend to form unions and revolt against the company, and there's a whole different aspect of that. But the point being, capitalism is such a beautiful concept. It enables anybody to create and add value to society, and in turn get rewarded for that. So it's such a beautiful concept, but it's tainted and corrupted by pretty much all the industry and institutes. And on the same line, like, why are say universities focused on how much money they make? That shouldn't be their primary goal. Shouldn't the university's primary goal is the quality? Should be the quality of education. In some sense, a lot of universities have underlying research program where they sponsor students to do research, and if the student end up creating companies out of it, the university can get royalty out of it. I guess that's a good system. That's a better system, because then the university have some stakes to make the sponsorship better, have more people research into diverse field. But for-profit schools are one of the worst industry. I guess the worser than that is prison industrial complex. especially in the United States. I don't know if there is any other country where prisons are built and owned by private companies. Uh, it can only happen in the United States. But when you give an uh, when you when you intensify reward towards locking up people, that's what gonna end up happening. When you give incentive to just make money out of students, then that's exactly what will end up happen. In fact, if the university have a different type of program, let's just say if there is no student, let's just say if the universities don't have to charge the students to study, but if they have this contract with every student that once they graduate out of university, they will be giving back to the university, say 0.5% to 1% of their salary every year. So it's not a fixed amount of money they will be getting per se, like because depending on which student get what kind of job, they will get a whole range of different amount back to the university, right? But at the same time, that have more stakes in it for the school, instead of having a fixed tuition, and instead of forcing students to kind of take a loan and then spend their entire life um, settling that loan, which itself is a huge burden for a lot of people who are coming out of poverty. Instead of all of that broken system, what if the universities just have a contract with every student that once they start working after, once they graduate from school, then they can give back like 1% of their salary every year. And that way they'll be able to create a better, more quality based courses and add value to people or students in general. But I think that universities gonna become obsolete in the next few years or decades because of the massive online courses. Most of the people who want to gain knowledge will look up for online classes, as well as all the books which are available. So this will in turn discourage people from going to the universities. And I guess that's the evolution of education. The problem with that gonna be to gauge the quality, because the school system and the education system have this underlying assumption that when you graduate from a school, you have a basic understanding of the subjects and your field of interest and whatnot. But once people start taking online classes, that assumption is out of window, because who is to say what type of knowledge you currently possess after even if you finish like online classes for a couple of years or whatnot. So it's gonna be very interesting to see how the education system will evolve altogether. But technology will displace a lot of jobs, lot of sectors, and that's a good thing, I believe, because it will open up more opportunities for people who did not have access to all of these systems in the past. Now, just with the mobile device, anyone would be able to learn different concepts, as well as express their point of view openly to the world, which itself is so, I would say, dramatic that we are still trying to figure out how to wind our mind around it, because that's one of the reasons why most of the people are inefficient in using social media. And I believe that social media, the concept of social media itself, is evolving, and we are in this very weird phase right now where we don't know how the social media gonna eventually evolve. But the younger generation who are growing up with social media, they will have better control over their social media altogether. And that's one of the reasons why people who say random stupid things on social media regret after, say, 5-10 years, because once it's up there, it's up there. You are, even if you evolved as a person, the society is canceling a lot of people based on their past words, not even past actions, past words, which is a very slippery road. Because as a human, I bet you must have had a reflection plenty of times when you said something you shouldn't have, and sometimes even regretted immediately after you said it. And plenty of times you mean it in a specific context, and if your words are taken out of context, then it means something entirely different. So basically, what I'm getting at is words have power, are very important, but right now we are in living in a society where anyone who says something inaccurate or says something controversial on social media, they have to be prepared for this mob of some sort who will be behind them to cancel their entire career altogether. So there is a limitation for everything, I guess, in a way, in an open society. When someone says something, they also have to face the ramification of that. But this would not have had happened maybe 30, 40, 50 years back, when people say something controversial, rather than starting a whole mob behind them. Probably at the time, people used to just express their disappointment and just move on. I believe there are degrees to all of this, and there are reasons for all of this as well, because the older generation were more, I guess, the older generation weren't easily influenced by words. They had the capacity to just listen and just let go, I guess. But the newer generation, they are taking up words so seriously, and to the extent that they feel triggered because of a specific word. And that's a whole snowflake thing, right? And there are snowflakes in all spectrum of religion, all spectrum of politics, all spectrum of society, for that matter. uh, and I get it, like some words might be triggering to some person, but isn't that an opportunity to get to become a better person instead of asking somebody to shut their mouth? It would be better if I just let go and not take everything to the heart, especially when it comes down to words. Uh, and growing up, I found my outlet through through other type of comedy, and I definitely have to get better at it. But the point being that there are different tools and different mechanisms to handle when people are being negative or angry or whatever. If you cannot just leave the environment, instead of asking them to shut up, uh, we can just move on. It's easier to do that. But there is also this whole attitude of accomplishment. If I made somebody shut their mouth, like, see, personally, I don't care. But if I'm, I don't know, in a restaurant and someone started shouting, then I will be annoyed, and I definitely want that person to tone down, or just outright leave. Uh, but it doesn't mean that it should be reflected on social media too, because it's not literally shouting. Because when somebody types something up, or someone is even recording a video and posting it up, people have a choice to listen to it and not. But in a physical place, when if I'm in a restaurant, someone is screaming at a waiter, or randomly at some other people, then I'm literally physically there, and that's a whole different circumstances. So people are equating this virtual world with physical world in a lot of ways. And I believe, like, in physical world, when we interact with each other, we are much nicer than how we tend to be on a virtual world. Because first of all, you're not connected to the person virtually. You can just type in whatever you want to, and that triggers a ton of other people in different ways, because they all are going through their own issues. And yeah, it's I think it's a good thing, though, to have these open platforms, even though it's debatable how much most of the social media is really open. But I feel that with open platforms, people would be able to, uh, in some sense, gravitate towards the concepts they actually align with, and and will push up the good ideas eventually. But it takes a while for all of this. I guess one of the analogy is this uh, Hinduism concept of churning the ocean. So there's this story where there are angels and demons, and they are churning the ocean to get the immortality nectar. And in the process of churning the ocean, there are a lot of things which come out of ocean, including including poison. Before they are able to churn down the ocean to get that nectar. So the point is, we are living in the timeline where social media is churning the poison at the moment. But I would like to believe that eventually it will churn the nectar out of all this shitstorm. And it's a matter of time. Maybe it will take 10 years or 20 years, or maybe a few more generations before people are completely absorbed with the social media concept, and will keep their social media life separate from the personal life, and hopefully even have like a better way to filter out the social media persona versus the reality persona. And I'm not saying that people who are on social media are completely opposite of who they are in real life. That's not true. But everything needs context. And unless you understand the bigger picture of where that person is coming from, it would be easier to just clip the bytes from social media and use it as a propaganda to, say, propagate one type of narration. And this is not a new concept. I mean, a lot of dictators used that in the past. They used printing press and not telecom, but television media, radio at the time to propagate a specific message to masses. The good thing about social media is that the masses can talk back now. So it's not as easier as it used to be for propaganda machine to kind of, just propagate whatever crazy brainwashing ideas they wanted to. And that's the best part of social media. And think there might be like more echo chambers in the future, which could be a good thing or a bad thing. Like imagine how United States itself is an echo chamber in its own, right? Because it's confined with a physical place. Like India is an echo chamber with dealing with its own issues. China is another, Canada, Russia. So all the physical echo chambers were distanced with boundaries. And within US you can find like different cities which have like its own subculture, have their own ideology and whatnot. So those are the echo chambers within the United States. So I think that's eventually what's going to happen in the virtual space as well, that there will be echo chambers of different concepts, echo chambers of different political beliefs, and instead of confined to a specific physical location, it will be open for the entire world. So a person from India and United States and Canada can have similar ideology and they will create their own echo chamber online. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but instead of physical countries, maybe we're going to have virtual countries. If there are enough participants of a specific virtual ideology, then maybe they themselves can practice that within their subgroup. And yeah, that totally can happen, right? Like with especially with blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies, if there are like 1 million people who adapt cryptocurrencies, they will be able to at least use that within their subgroup. So regardless of if the world catches up or if they want to adapt to the cryptocurrency, at least 1 million people would be able to use that cryptocurrency within their subgroup. And likewise, that's going to happen for other concepts as well. The painstaking point of that would be like, what would be the ramification of those echo chambers in physical world? I don't want anyone to be discriminated based on ideology or any other factors, even in their physical world, regardless of what happens in the virtual world. And probably we are gonna help out in that. If you haven't seen the movie 2050, check it out. It's was it 2050? I'm blanking on that, but it's a good movie showing you the possibility of virtual reality altogether in the future. And I think overall it might be helpful, but it would be interesting to see how, I guess it all depends on the evolution of technology. So taking inspiration from one of the Black Mirror episode, if everyone are able to upload their consciousness in like a virtual world, which are not bounded by the physical laws per se, but have like a whole virtual laws within that virtual world. But more or less people would be able to feel and do various things in that world. So that's gonna be probably a better way to continue to live forever, because in the virtual world you can choose not to age at all. You can probably even choose to remodify your body. If if you're fat, you want to be like fit, you can. And likewise, if you're short and if you want to be tall, then sure you can, and whatnot. I don't know. It would be all interesting to see how all of this technology can evolve. And it's arguable that we are already living in a virtual reality. That's a whole simulation theory. And in some sense, we have control over the physical laws as well as our mindset and our mind body. And probably once we die, our consciousness, it goes back to the mainframe, and don't know what happens there. But to be honest, it's very complex. Who knows what reality is? Who knows what life is? Who knows what anything is? Uh, the only thing I can be certain of is right this moment, and everything else is figment of my imagination. So the past is the imagination in terms of memory. The future is the imagination in terms of projection. And the only thing I can be certain of is this current moment. Uh, and I guess the better way to improve that presence and that awareness is to practice some of these skills, such as meditation and mindfulness, and inducing yourself to healthy stress like exercise. Breathworks are really, really interesting, really amazing. If you just follow any of the breath work, then you can feel the difference within your body very quickly. And especially, I've been doing Wim Hof technique for a while, and in fact, recently I did Wim Hof breathing technique and smoked DMT, and to be honest, it was less anxiety filled. In the past, when I smoked DMT, I was so anxious. I felt like well, the literally the life itself was, torn apart and whatnot. But after doing breath work, I was able to feel. I was elevated when I was in DMT experience, and plenty of times I forget the entire experience itself and have these flashbacks of the peak moments within the experience. But I feel that DMT could be like a router, so enabling our mind to connect to a different consciousness, or like how we have waves, radiomagnetic, electromagnetic waves, and how these waves are, how we currently use these waves to send and receive information. But it's possible only when you have a satellite which can send, as well as satellite which can receive, and those satellite will function only if you have the juice, the power. So similarly, our minds are the satellite which can send and receive thoughts, I guess, and consciousness, whatever may be the difference between the two. And there's like different levels to the power, and DMT just ramped that up to the highest level. And personally, I do want to work Bufo, but I guess I might have to fly to Mexico or Peru, where there are actual trained shamans who can help with working with Bufo, because Bufo is one of the amazing DMT I've experienced. It elevates me entirely, and to be honest, like, I was still not surrendering to the experience, and I still have that problem with a lot of other things, because I want to be in control. I don't want to let go of things. And from what I heard or from other people, like, once you surrender, once you let go, that's when you'll be able to experience the higher dimensions of reality and whatnot. And Bufo is one of the most calmful medicine I personally found, which will be which will probably work along with me. And also, I mean, I gotta dive deeper into ayahuasca medicines as well. The last time I experienced ayahuasca, it was pretty wild. Although I wasn't detached from the reality, like in the past ayahuasca experience, but it was something. It was. I guess that's not a good conversation right now. It's a conversation for another time. But I believe these psychoactive substances can help so many people. So many people. Instead of consuming tobacco or alcohol, especially instead of over consuming these substances, if only our society openly allows people to experience psychedelics, or at the very least have these trained experts who can, sit through the entire journey, I can assure you a lot of people will be benefiting from it. A lot of people will experience it and see what they are doing to their lives. I can just speak to myself, I guess, and the people within my, psychonaut community. And I've seen, like, at personal level, it transformed my life so much that I cannot be enough grateful. And every time, well, not every time, but most of the time when I experience it, go on a journey, I become a better person. I introspect on my actions, and I introspect on my role in this society, my role as a human, my role as a son, as a brother, any other identities. What is my role? And to be honest, I'm still not the best person in those shoes, in that role, but at least this gave me an insight of what I can be or who I can be. And meditation does that at times as well. All right. I guess it has been a long rant, and probably I've been talking for past 30 minutes or so. That note, I'm gonna start meditating for next hour using Vipassana technique and a combination of visualization, gratitude techniques, and I'm still playing around with different meditational practices to see what would be the perfect, I won't say perfect, but what would be the best technique for me in this moment. And and yeah, I would say if you're just getting started, check out some of the guided meditation I've done, or just go to on YouTube and look up for any guided meditation for your specific need. If you want something to feel grateful, if you want something to feel compassionate, if you want to let go of something, if you want to just release your stress, uh, just look it up for any of those meditational practices. And it's mind boggling what just sitting for an hour with your thoughts can do. It's mind boggling how much peace it can bring, how much calmness it can bring. I can I can tell you from my experience, I've been meditating for over a year, but more consistently in the past 3 4 months or so, and I've been feeling much more calmful and peaceful with ev- with all the crises in the world, and all the crises which are hitting me personally as well. Uh, it's it's that serenity which helps you to get over all the hate, all the negativity in the world. And it's that serenity which also helps you to cultivate more compassion and love and kindness uh, to the world. Because believe it or not, most of the people, I would say 80 to 90% of the people, are trying their best to be the best person within their old within their own trapped patterns, to be the best, you know family, to be the best civic person and whatnot. So majority of us are trying to make ourselves better and make the society better, and there are always going to be those minorities which screw everything up, and sow the seeds of divisions and rule once people are divided and fighting among themselves. And yeah, all right, let me get started. All right, before I do that, gotta save. All right, I will see you in an hour. Thanks for joining me for this hour long meditation hour. Until next time, stay peaceful.